In this learning objective, we're going to put together the rest of the unit and talk about graphing full sinusoidal functions. All right, so in this video, we're going to cover equations of this form. We're not going to do phase shifts because those get kind of weird once you start doing full sinusoidal graphs. All right, so we're going to look at just the three letters. So A was our amplitude. All right, that makes our letters bigger. B changes the period. Remembering the formula, the period is 2 pi over B. And D was the midline. It changes where the middle of the graph is. All right, so let's graph 3 times sine of x minus 2. All right, so in this example, I'm going to go you through the steps. The first thing we're going to do is identify B to identify P, the period. In this case, B equals 1 because it's a number being multiplied by this. So my period is 2 pi. All right, so that tells me that my graph is going to repeat every 2 pi. So what I'm going to do is all of your skill checks and stuff are going to have this little thing given to you. So this right tick mark is going to be whatever the period is. And I'm going to break this up into 4 equal pieces. All right, so if this is 2 pi, we actually already done this before. This is pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2. All right, so those are my kind of segments of my repeating thing. All right, and this isn't the final graph, but my sine graph kind of looks like this. Here. All right, now the next step is to find the highest value, all right, which is going to be your A plus your D value, because the D value is midline and you can go up A from that. So in this case, it's going to be 3 plus negative 2 is 1. Step 3, find your lowest value, which is going to be D minus A. So in this case, negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. All right, so from those, I can make my y-axis. All right, so I'm going to have 1 being the biggest number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5 being the smallest number. All right, now I know my normal sine graph looks like this. So it starts in the middle. The midline is negative 2, so it's going to start at negative 2. Then my sine graph goes up to the highest value, back to the middle, down to the lowest value, up to the middle. All right, so my final graph is going to look like this. Again, that's just one segment of it. I can copy and paste it over and over again, but this is all I'm looking for on the skill check. All right, so the things I'm looking for are that the values there are correct, that the highest and lowest values are correct, and then you have the right general shape. All right, so this is a sine shape that hits all the right places. All right, so this one's going to be a little bit more difficult just because now I have B is 4. The period is 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. Again, whatever number is here is going to go there. And now I need to figure out what these equal segments are going to be for the rest of my graph. And I'm breaking up into 4 equal segments, so I can take pi over 2 and divide it by 4, which is the same as pi over 2 times 1/4, which is pi over 8. So a quarter of this is going to be pi over 8. The next segment is going to be another pi over 8, so it's going to be 2 pi over 8, which is pi over 4. And the third segment is 3 pi over 8, which doesn't simplify, it's just 3 pi over 8. All right, so I took this number, broke it down into 4s to figure out what the first tick mark is, and just add to get the rest of them. All right, now my biggest number is my midline plus the amplitude. Is my midline 0 plus negative 3 is negative 3. So my biggest value is negative 3. My smallest value is my midline minus my amplitude. And that's positive 3. All right, that seems kind of weird that my biggest value is negative 3 and my smallest value is 3, but we'll explain why that's the case in a second. But that helps me figure out my scale of my y-axis. Oops, these are negative values. My normal cosine graph, let's just think about what the normal cosine graph would look like this. So my new cosine graph is going to look like the same, except for with the amplitudes of -3. So where does this negative matter? Because that just makes it go in the opposite direction. So instead of starting at the highest value, I start at the lowest value. Then I'm in the middle. Then instead of being at the lowest value, I'm at the highest value. Then I'm in the middle. Then again, switching that. So my final graph will look something like this. One thing you don't kind of want to do is when you're drawing cosine graphs is to draw your graph like that, because it looks like it's going down forever. So it's helpful to put the little curl in it to show it is going to go back up before it keeps going. All right, so that would be the graph of -3 cosine of 4x. Again, the big difference with this one over the previous problem was, one, the negative makes it go the opposite direction, and two, because I have a b value, those numbers are different. All right, here's another one. Identify b is pi. So my period is 2 pi over that number, which is 2. So it tells me this number here is going to be 2. All right, 2 divided by 4 is 1/2. So that's going to be 1/2. When I do 2 of them, that's 2 over 2, which is 1. When I do 3 of them, that's 3/2. My biggest value is going to be d plus a, which is 1 plus -1 is 0. My smallest value is d minus a, which is 1 minus -1 is 2. So again, that's going to help me figure out my y scale. And I always start with thinking about what my original graph looks like. But my original sine function looks something like this. So now my answer, because it's a negative sine graph, is going to do the opposite. So the opposite of the middle is still the middle. It's going to start in the middle at 1. Then instead of going up to the top, it's going to go down to the lowest value at 0. Back to the middle, to the highest value, back to the middle. All right, so my final answer is going to look like that. All right, and that is the graph of that trig function. I will do one more before I have you do one on your own. So here we're going to have the period, or not the period yet. First we identify b. b is 1/4. The period is going to be 2 pi divided by 1/4. And dividing by 1/4 same as multiplying by 4. So this is 8 pi. So that's the value that's going to go here. 8 pi divided by 4 is 2 pi. So that's the value that's going to go there. Do it twice, I get 4 pi. Do it 3 times, I get 6 pi. All right, my biggest value is my midline plus my amplitude. -1 plus 2 is 1. My smallest value is my midline minus my amplitude, which is -3. Right, so that's going to tell me my highest value needs to be 1. My lowest value needs to be down there at -3. Right. And again, always think about what your original function is going to look like. Right. Cosine originally looks like this. So here I'm going to start off at my highest value. Then I'm going to go to the middle, which is -1. Then my lowest value, then the middle, then my highest value. All right, so this yellow graph is my final answer. And again, with cosine graphs, it's always important to put that little curl at the end to make sure it doesn't look like it's a parabola going up that way. It's actually curling into a wave. All right, so here's the one for you to try on your own. 3 sine of 2x minus 1. All right, this is the graph that I came up with. So the important thing, identify the period is pi, so that goes there. Divided by 4, you get pi over 4. Do that twice, pi over 2, 3 times 3, pi over 4. The biggest value is 2, the smallest value is -4, and then just remembering the pattern for sine, midline, top, midline, bottom, midline, and that gives you your basic sine shape for this graph. All right, so for the starting objective, you're going to complete a skill check, and the skill check has 2 sinusoidal functions, just like the examples we did, and there's plenty of practice problems in the practice handout as well for you to try.